The Corpus Hermeticum, translated by G.R.S. Mead. An adult brain audiobook production read to you by Dunlop. An Introduction to the Corpus Hermeticum by John Michael Greer. The 15 tractates of the Corpus Hermeticum, along with the Perfect Sermon or Asclepius, are the foundation documents of the Hermetic tradition. Written by unknown authors in Egypt sometime before the end of the 3rd century CE, they were part of a once substantial literature attributed to the mythic figure of Hermes Trismegistus, a Hellenistic fusion of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth. This literature came out of the same religious and philosophical ferment that produced Neoplatonism, Christianity, and the diverse collection of teachings usually lumped together under the label Gnosticism, a ferment which had its roots in the impact of Platonic thought on the older traditions of the Hellenized East. There are obvious connections and common themes linking each of these traditions, although each had its own answer to the major questions of the time. The treatises we now call the Corpus Hermeticum were collected into a single volume in Byzantine times, and a copy of this volume survived to come into the hands of Lorenzo de' Medici's agents in the 15th century. Marsilio Ficino, the head of the Florentine Academy, was pulled off the task of translating the dialogues of Plato in order to put the Corpus Hermeticum into Latin first. His translation saw print in 1463 and was reprinted at least 22 times over the next century and a half. The treatises divide up into several groups. The first, Chapter 1, the Pomandres, is the account of a revelation given to Hermes Trismegistus by the being Pomandres, or man-shepherd, an expression of the universal mind. The next 8, Chapter 2 to 9, the general sermons, are short dialogues or lectures discussing various basic points of Hermetic philosophy. There follows the key, Chapter 10, a summary of the general sermons, and after this a set of 4 tractates: Mind unto Hermes, About the Common Mind, The Secret Sermon on the Mountain, and the Letter of Hermes to Asclepius, Chapter 11 to 14. Touching on the more mystical aspects of Hermeticism, the collection is rounded off by the definitions of Asclepius unto King Ammon, Chapter 15, which may be composed of 3 fragments of longer works. The Perfect Sermon. The Perfect Sermon, or Asclepius, which is also included here, reached the Renaissance by a different route. It was translated into Latin in ancient times, reputedly by the same Lucius Apuleius of Madura, whose comic serious masterpiece, The Golden Ass, provides some of the best surviving evidence on the worship of Isis in the Roman world. Augustine of Hippo quotes from the Old Latin translation at length in his City of God, and copies remained in circulation in medieval Europe all the way up to the Renaissance. The original Greek version was lost, although quotations survive in several ancient sources. The Perfect Sermon is substantially longer than any other surviving work of ancient Hermetic philosophy. It covers topics which also occur in the Corpus Hermeticum, but touches on several other issues as well, among them magical processes for the manufacture of gods and a long and gloomy prophecy of the decline of Hermetic wisdom and the end of the world. The significance of the Hermetic writings. The Corpus Hermeticum landed like a well-aimed bomb amid the philosophical systems of late medieval Europe. Quotations from the Hermetic literature and the Church Fathers, who were never shy of leaning on pagan sources to prove a point, accepted a traditional chronology which dated Hermes Trismegistus as a historical figure to the time of Moses. As a result, the Hermetic tractates' borrowings from Jewish scripture and Platonic philosophy were seen in the Renaissance as evidence that the Corpus Hermeticum had anticipated and influenced both. The Hermetic philosophy was seen as a primordial wisdom tradition, identified with the wisdom of the Egyptians mentioned in Exodus and lauded in Platonic dialogues such as the Timaeus. It thus served
Sample complete. Ready to continue?